So, welcome to this webinar on overcoming the barriers to comfort and productivity in your workplace. I'm Melanie Green. I'm an occupational psychologist and I run Inspire Transformation. I work as a coach and trainer in all different types of organisations, helping people to deal with stress and conflict at work. And I'm really pleased to have with me today is Alison Thompson, who is the safety elf, and she is an expert in posture and ergonomics. I will be handing over to her in a moment. So what we're going to cover today, Alison is exploring about our posture, also our task management and planning, and the importance of movement and making changes actually to help us be comfortable and productive. I'm then going to explore the psychological drivers that might stop us from taking action so that we are comfortable and productive, and look at those drivers and how they affect us both in and outside of work, and getting you to create some action plans so that you do take action as a result of this webinar today. So I'm going to hand over to Alison now.
It's lovely to meet you all. I'm Alison Thompson. I am the safety elf, and I'm passionate about posture and the positive difference it can make in both life and work. I'm sure your posture is always fabulous, but I want you to imagine what I see. I'm a real people watcher. So imagine what I see when I'm visiting an office or in a coffee shop. You remember those good old days when we could actually go into coffee shops with other people, or even on the kinds of postures I'm seeing on Zoom calls. So here are a few of my top favourites. Let's start with the keyboard slump. Is this one familiar to anybody? How about the wearing your shoulders as earrings posture? The can't find my headset, so I'm clamping my phone to my ear posture. My arm of my chair is down here, but I do like to lean on it posture. The let me think about this posture, or the that writing's really small posture. Any of those familiar to anybody? I bet there's a few. You don't have to tell me, it's okay. Let me talk you through what I see when I'm in coffee shops. People walk in a fairly vertical posture. They buy their coffee and they sit down, and we're still not doing too badly. But then out comes the gadget, and then everybody goes C-shaped. Okay, I have this theory that our next evolution, human evolution, is going to be C-shaped. But what should we be? Okay, I'm guessing that when people have talked to you about posture in the past, they've probably used words like sit up straight with a bit of a waggy finger attached. We don't actually want you to sit up straight. Our spines are S-shaped. That's the natural shape. And in that shape, they are in the strongest position, having to work the least hard to hold you there. How can you find that? I want you to visualize head over shoulder over hips. And imagine someone just pulling a cord at the top of your head so that your spine falls down like an S-shaped cotton reels. That's great. And you're probably thinking, yeah, I might have heard that before. Why is it important? Okay, I want you to visualize something else. You go to a new gym, they give you a stack of hand weights, and they say to you, I want you to hold those out away from your body, and I'll be back in 4 hours. Just keep going. Would you think that sounded like a good plan, or would you have some alarm bells ringing? Okay, this is what we actually do to our bodies without realizing it. Now, I realize that my audience here is going to be incredibly brainy, but how heavy do you think those brains are? So, human head, how heavy do you think it is? This is where your pre-prepared roughly a kilogram weight comes in handy. So grab your weight, have a feel, get a sense of what a kilogram feels like. Okay, and then Melanie, I think we've got a poll ready to roll.
Launching it now.
Okay, so how heavy do you think your head is? Okay, so we've got quite a range from 1 kilogram, so 1 bag of sugar, 2 bags of sugar, 5 bags of sugar, or 8 bags of sugar. And actually the majority have got it. Gold star to that 45%. It is indeed 5 kilograms. So well done. Could you close that one down for me, Melanie? Thank you. But 5 kilograms, that's 5 bags of sugar. So your personal trainer just gave you 5 bags of sugar and asked you to hold it. So do you remember the keyboard slump? What we're asking our neck and shoulders and back muscles to do is hold up 5 bags of sugar, okay? And then to do that for however long our head is not over our shoulders, over our hips, which is neutral posture. And then multiply that about with the other unhelpful things we do, like holding our arms out away from our body because our mouse is over there, because we've got all our paperwork on the table here, for example. So that's just a little taste of why it's important. Melanie, could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So one of the other things that can really make a difference is matching the task that you need to do to the environment and the equipment that you've got. For those of us who've been traditionally office-based in the past, in the office, typically everything happened at the desk because that's where your job happened. But we don't have to do the same at home. Not everything has to be done at a desk. So, what locations have you got in your home where you A, would want to work, or B, you have to work? So it might be that you've got a proper desk, or that you're working off a dining room table. It might be that there's some times when your partner, your business colleague, or your kids need the desk, and you find yourself having to work on the sofa or sitting on the bed. And in the summer, it might have been that you would like to have worked in the garden. So think about what different environments you've got and what equipment have you got. What of it is fixed? What is portable? Have you got a work surface, a worktop, something to lean on, or are you actually supporting any gadgets that you're using? How about your leg support when you're sitting on a chair or the sofa or the bed? Are your legs dangling? Are your feet supported? What's the light like? I often used to see in offices kind of people with this kind of posture, and it would be because of the glare from natural light, this low winter light, sunshine when we had it. We haven't got it here today. Can make it really difficult. It's beautiful, but it can make it really difficult. There might be times when you're struggling for Wi-Fi, or you just haven't got the G's to kind of do the connected work that you want to do. Sometimes it's great to have background noise, distraction, company that might be sounds from the family or from colleagues. But sometimes it might be that actually for the piece of work you're doing, you don't want distractions, you want the concentration. Maybe you want to be able to play music that you choose because that helps you concentrate, rather than the music that your teenage son chooses. Might not be your ideal working background soundtrack. You might need privacy. Sometimes they might be having those conversations which you don't want to be having in a kind of more shared space. How about the task itself? What do you need to actually complete the task? So do you just need your brain? For example, would that be a good opportunity to walk around, process, get creative, get the oxygen flowing, take yourself into a different head and physical space? Do you need brain plus paper? I'm of the generation where I get to the point where I need to print something off and scribble on it with a pen. So actually I don't need to be in front of my computer, connected to my computer for those. Or maybe it's reading something, or maybe it's scribbling down in a notebook. Is it your brain plus technology? And what technology is it? Is it computer? Is it a tablet? Is it a phone? There's a whole range which offers a whole range of opportunities. One of the things that people often tell me is that they wish they had a standing desk. Do you know what? If you've got an ironing board at home, you've got the makings of a standing desk. You can, they're height adjustable. And they're probably tasks that you find you naturally do really well when you're standing. In old-fashioned sales training, it always used to be stand to make the sale. And I'm a natural stander and walker when possible when I'm on the phone, unless I have to be super glued to something on my computer at the time. have a think about, is there anything you can repurpose, environments you can repurpose, or equipment that you can repurpose to let you be flexible so you can match the task and the environment. Melanie, next slide, please. Thank you. Move. We are not designed to be sedentary creatures. So how do you build movement into your day? Do you know what? I think we've all been sitting long enough. It's time to have a wiggle break. Yep, you heard me right. It's a wiggle break. So hopefully you will all join me. It's really simple. You stand up, you stretch and you wiggle, okay? And when you sit down again, oh, excellent. I can see people standing. That's awesome. Have a stretch, a shoulder roll, shake your hands, whatever it is that works for you. It's going to be different for everybody. Now, the magic second piece of the puzzle, when you sit down again, take a positive posture reset. So I'm going to say the words again because I want them to be ringing in your ears when you come away from this webinar. Head over shoulders over hips. That's your neutral. If you reset there, that's a great way to start to change your movement pattern. People ask me, how often should I take a movement break? Once an hour? Oh no, we're aiming for every 20 minutes. So my top tip is set a timer for 20 minutes. And then every time the timer goes off, a quick wiggle, stretch and posture reset. It's the two things together that work the magic. I warn you, you will hate me for the first couple of days that you try and do that, because when you first start to do it, it's incredibly disruptive. It breaks your train of thought. You have to consciously think, it's 20 minutes, I need to do this and then do that and sit down. But I promise you, if you bear with it, it will just become what you do. I can see my timer going off out of the corner of my eye and just stand up, stretch and not it be on the phone and nobody would know. The other time to move is listen to your body. Is your body actually saying to you, please move me, please do something different, please reset me? Do you actually pay attention when your body's giving you those early warning signs? And most important of all, do you pay attention when they're still early warning signs? Because your body will just ramp up until you start to pay attention. What are the things that you can do that make a difference to your body? And I think you'll find taking regular movement breaks is a really magic part of that. Melanie, next slide, please. I have to warn you, making changes isn't easy. Your body has learned a normal. It might not be a great normal. It might not be a helpful normal. It might be the this normal or the this normal. But when you try and make a change, so you do the head over shoulders over hips, your body will be saying to you, no, we don't do that. We do this. And you will have to persuade it that actually this is the new normal, until the magic day when you go to do this and your body goes, no, we don't do that. We do head over shoulders over hips. We do neutral. Fantastic. But yes, it does take commitment. You know the saying, it takes at least 21 days to embed a new habit. It is a lot of improving your comfort and productivity at your workstation is about changing behaviour. As much about, people often want to talk to me about equipment, and that has a role to play, but so much of it is actually about changing behaviour. There are ways you can get support from me while you do this. You can sign up for my newsletter or visit my website and book some one-to-one time with me through the virtual elf if you want me to zoom into your workspace and help you or your family members make improvements to your workstation reality. Melanie, next slide, please. So my final challenge to you, and I know this is a question on the worksheet, so I hope you're all scribbling frantically right now, is what are you going to do? What are you going to commit to doing differently from today? Think of something that you think you can do. Maybe there's a quick win and maybe something you want to, you're going to have to work a bit harder at. And who are you going to tell? Recruit someone to be your cheer team to help you actually make those changes. And on that note, this is the perfect time to hand over to Melanie, who's going to talk to us about what some of the barriers might be to making those changes. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Alison. And so we've got a little bit time for questions. So if you have got any questions, please write them in the chat box, and then we can throw it open to Alison to answer those. Well, it was interesting that because Alison and I over the last week have been preparing this and kind of touching base at different points, I found myself at many points as I'm kind of starting to slump forward and it's like, no, remembering and remembering to kind of sit up straight. And so it is about having those reminders. So I think doing a reminder on your phone would be an incredibly useful over the next couple of weeks, just to kind of reinforce you. And I think particularly you were talking about actually listening to those early warning signals. And too often is we don't spot them until, and that might be about your shoulders tensing up, or a tension headache, or a slightly aching back. Is actually we ignore them until they get much worse. So I think if you have reminders that are getting you to reflect on yourself, as well as doing your little wiggle as well and resetting yourself, I think that would be really useful. So we've not any questions in the chat box. So clearly everything was very clear. So what I'm going to talk about today is about what drives your behavior and what might stop you. So Alison's come up with, and talked about a number of things in terms of your posture, is that the layout of your workstation. I quite like the idea of using my ironing board as a standing desk, particularly as I don't really use it much as an ironing board. So I can repurpose it as a standing desk if I want to. And somebody's just said, have you got advice on choosing a chair? So before I dive into the drivers, Alison, do you have any advice about choosing chairs, as we got time to take that question?
Yes, I do have advice about choosing chairs. So if you were looking to buy a chair, buy as much adjustability as you can afford. People often choose a chair because it's I like the fabric, or I like something funky about the design. But actually, for your body wants adjustability. Understand, or if you've got an adjustable chair already, take the time to have a look and see what all the knobs and levers do, because that's often, like, people will say to me, we've bought this lovely chair, but it's still not right. But that's because nobody's explained what all the knobs and levers do. We're going to send out the Pimp My Chair guide with in the follow-up email to this, and there's actually some guidance in there about key things with setting your chair height and the adjustability you've got. One of the big myths is that you when you're adjusting an adjustable chair or trying to set yourself up on a dining room chair, is that you have to start with your feet flat on the floor. And you don't. It's all about the relationship between your forearms and the top of the desk, and that's in my Pimp My Chair guide. So have a look there. Does that answer your question enough?
So they'll probably come back, but just while they kind of come back, is that I was going to say is I'm quite a short person, and yes, you have answered their question. So I'm quite a short person, and I have a footrest, and a proper footrest, rather than stacks of books that I might rest my feet on, and so that my feet and my legs are at the right kind of level. And because if I needed to lower my legs, my chair enough for my feet to be on the floor, I'd be kind of somewhere up like this. Yes. So that kind of emphasizes get this bit right, and then you can deal with your feet later. Somebody has also asked this, and I've not heard of this, and I don't know whether Alison you have, is they say, do you recommend those devices you put on your back which buzzes every time you slouch? I know it sounds like torture.
Do a posture reset, and if you're going to invest the money, invest it in some kit that will actually make a difference to your experience, rather than that. But yeah, if you've got access to one and you want to play with it, it's a way of giving you that feedback. Absolutely.
Okay, I've learned something new there. Okay, so let's. As I said, I'm going to talk about what drives your behaviour, and talk through a model called TA drivers. And so you can know everything that Alison's told you, but there can be something that inside you that stops you actually putting into practice. And there are a lot of different things that drives our behavior. So there's our values, our beliefs, our personality. But I'm looking at this model called TA drivers that look at your psychological drivers. And the fact that there's 5 of them, and I'm going to talk through them, and is that you will have certain strengths in each one. So they will try and find the fastest and the quickest way of doing things. So I would kind of joke that if you see me getting the shopping out of the car, I'm like a bag lady. And Alison would be horrified because I'd have, bags on each shoulder, several bags on a bag on each arm, in each hand. And if I could balance something on my head, I probably would have done, because it's about doing it as quick as possible. And so people with a hurry up driver is they get through a lot, but they can often make mistakes. I was working with a team who I was brought in because they were in a disarray, and they were a dispatch team. There were many reasons why they were in disarray, but what was interesting was that half of them had a hurry up driver and half had a be perfect driver. And the hurry up people would get really annoyed with the others not doing enough. But actually, they made loads of errors. And the company would rather them slow down and get it right first time. If you've got a hurry up driver, you'll just sit down at your desk, dive into your work without even kind of thinking about, hang on a minute, how am I sitting? And so, so you need to kind of slow down. And I think, again, that's where the timer on the phone will just make you stop and slow down and think about yourself just every 20 minutes. So that you can kind of think about, how am I operating? What's my posture? Am I comfortable, etc. The other downside with the hurry up drivers, we can become very impatient with other people if you're not kind of aware of it. And so that doesn't kind of help the working environment. Also, this plays out in our family life as well, if there's kind of clashes with other people. The please people driver they're great to have in a team. So if you're working, pre-COVID times, working in an office, they're the people who will always make other people cups of tea. They'll remember people's birthdays. If you have a strong please people driver, you can end up that you're so busy trying to please other people that you're not looking after your own needs. So thinking about what the topic we're talking about today is that it's very easy to kind of think. So Alison said about, stopping, movement, I would say about having regular breaks, making sure you have a lunch break. But if you have a please people driver, and I coach a lot of people like this who kind of go, well, I work through lunch because there are all these people waiting for replies. And, and never mind, the fact is that actually, if you just work and work and work and have no breaks, is actually your productivity will go down. So not only physically you will get tired, but also mentally as well. And so the please people, you might find that outside of work as well, is that you're so busy pleasing everybody that you're not pleasing and not asking for what you need. So there are some real downsides to the please people. And it's interesting, when I'm coaching people, people often talk in very kind of polarized ways. And I find that, I had a coaching client the other day who kind of said, well, if I don't please people, then people are going to hate me. And it's like, whoa, no, you're not going to go right to you're not going to suddenly turn into this really selfish person. But it's finding that middle way where, yes, you are pleasing other people, but you're also looking after yourself. And that means that also you can longer term keep on pleasing people, but you won't be overwhelmed, you won't get burnout. And also you won't sometimes people end up in a kind of very martyrish because they please everybody, but not themselves. The be strong driver is those people, they're great in an emergency situation because they're head down, they just get on with things, they're not flustered. It's really great to have some be strong people around. But the potential downside, if you have a be strong driver, is not asking for support, not showing anybody that you're struggling. I have one client organisation where everybody is now working from home and have been since the beginning of March. And the organisation is very aware that not everybody has an office and a desk. Some people are in, they've got some young employees who are in shared accommodation. So they're, working in their bedrooms, perched on their beds, etc. And the organization wants them to be honest about what they need to be, to be set up and be effective and have a good workplace. But a be strong person might be, well, oh, I don't want to bother people, or oh, I'm sure, people will think I'm a bit weak if I ask for what I need, or I'm making a fuss if I ask for, I'm short and I need a footstool, or whatever else it might be. So also the be strong people can, if they never ever ask for support and they don't admit what they're feeling inside, in the end it can end up long term in terms of illness, or toppling over in the end. The be perfect driver is that tyranny of perfectionism. And so, those of my clients who suffer from this is that they will work extra long hours. They will spend much longer over documents or even emails trying to get it right. And again, that might lead to unhealthy working practices in terms of not taking breaks. Also, it might be that your organization, we have some organizations who are kind of monitoring whether people are actually at their computer. And if you're kind of a be perfect, you might think, well, people will think I'm not doing my job if I take breaks, rather than actually you might be more effective. And if you're worried, discuss it with your manager. Is that the be perfect is that you might be kind of going for 100% effectiveness. So one of my coaching clients at the moment is two directors of an accountancy firm that they set up, and they also now have a business coach. I coach them around how they manage themselves and how they manage their teams. And their business coach said to them, so when you're going on the business side and the accountancy side, what percentage are you going in terms of accuracy? And they're going 100%. So what's happening is they're doing loads of checking of all their staff's work because they're so obsessed with this 100%. And the business coach who comes from an accountancy background goes, no, you don't need that 80%, because I don't understand the technical side of it, because it will all be mopped up later on. And so their perfectionist is actually creating more work for themselves. And that can lead to unhealthy working practices. The final driver, and these are in no particular order, but the final driver that I'm talking about today is the try harder. And people with the try harder are just about putting in more hours and more effort. And so when I'm starting to coach people who are very stressed and overwhelmed, is, I might say to them, so, what have you tried already? Or what are your kind of thoughts? And they're kind of like, well, I just put in more hours. I'm working weekends and I'm working late at night, or I get up at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning to work. And so they're just working harder and harder, and they're not finding smarter ways of doing things. And so that might be in terms of how you're structuring and how you're planning your work. It may be in terms of the layout of your office. So I have been working from home for many, many years now, but my desk used to be over there. And I then bought a proper desk, and I'm by a window, natural light. I mean, I just look out on a suburban street, but I can see the clouds, I can see the trees over there. And and suddenly when I reorganized the office, I was so much more productive. Things were in the right place. I had more room as well. Alison was talking about, actually making sure that you got the right amount of space, so you're not sort of over here with your keyboard or your mouse, etc. And so it's about thinking about smarter ways rather than just working harder and harder. So I'm going to, if you've got any questions about that, I am going to talk a little bit further about it, but I'm also going to do a poll. So what I'd like to do is to launch the poll and to ask you, what are your top 2 or 3 drivers? Now, over the last year, I've had a number of coaching clients who've said, all of them are relevant to me. And I was kind of saying, well, yes, maybe, or maybe that it feels like that, but there will be 2 or 3 that are much stronger in yourself than others. So I'd like you to just come up with the top 2 or 3. So here are the results. So 83% be perfect driver, very strong in people, and very strong please people. That's quite a lethal combination, I have to say. because the kind of tyranny of perfectionism, but also wanting to please people, it can create a lot of anxiety, which again, in terms of posture, if you're very tense, then that's going to affect how you're sitting, and how you're working, as well as the amount of work that you're putting in. We've got 50% of people who are saying a be strong is also important. So, it's great that you have that be strong driver, but it is making sure that you also have somebody that you can talk to about how you do feel. About the big things that are going on in your life, whether that's in or outside of work, is that you are able to be able to speak to and ask for support. And I was listening to, I think it was a TED talk the other morning. I listened to them while I'm doing my Pilates, and they were talking about selective vulnerability. And I thought that was a nice way of saying it for be strong people. So you don't have to go and be vulnerable with everybody, but actually have somebody who can do selective vulnerability and have that support. And then we've got a couple of people with a try harder, and also just a couple, 3 people with a hurry up. With a hurry up, just notice whether you get impatient with other people, and just spot when you're doing it, and kind of rein that in. And I've got a great example of this, is that, let me just get, this was a number of years ago before we had emails, so it's a long time ago. And it was in one of my voluntary roles, and we had a mailing that we were sending out to people. And 4 of us got together one evening. We had about 200 envelopes of stuff. And so we had the letters. And if I'm going to stuff multiple letters in envelopes, I gather about 5 together, and I fold them over like this and kind of do it together. And then I just kind of quickly pull out one, shove it in an envelope, stick things. It was the days of sticking, you had to stick lick stamps, but I had a roller, because of course I'm a hurry up person, so I have rollers because it's much quicker than licking them and things like that. And I noticed that one of my colleagues was very, very carefully making sure that things completely matched up, and they had it absolutely perfect before he did this. And then he very carefully, and in my head I went, oh my God, what are you doing? You're going to hardly get through any compared to the rest of us. And then another part of me went, oh, it's my hurry up driver and his be perfect. And actually, I just then could let go of it. And, it was only one night. If I worked with him regularly, I might have kind of said something to him in a diplomatic way. But actually, I could just let him, and it was fine. We were going to get through. We were all having nice chats while we're doing the task. So this is where our self-awareness of our hurry-up drivers can help us. So this is where our self-awareness of what our drivers are. And this is not just in terms of at work, but also around the home. Our partners might be different from us. If you've got children or other people in your family, is that it might be socially with your friends, thinking about the benefits that you're gained from your drivers, but also those drawbacks, and how can you be more self-aware and take action to overcome those drawbacks. And again, feel free to ask any questions in the chat box and about these drivers and how to overcome them. And I also wanted to say about other people, because of course you've got these drivers and they're impacting on you and how you're managing yourself and operating in your workplace. But also everybody else also has these drivers. So you might have a manager. So if you've got a manager, maybe with a hurry up driver, and they're expecting things at a rate of knots, and you haven't, is that negatively impacting on you? Do you have, colleagues who are please people? Maybe they're please people to the point that actually they're driving you mad, and they're interrupting you too much, and they're not realizing the negative impact. It's very nice, but sometimes it's too much and you just need to get on with your work. And when clashes occur with the drivers, is the best way of dealing with it is about having the rapport with the other person. So it makes it much easier to have those conversations about it and about these differences. And also having adult to adult conversations, rather what people often go into is very kind of parent-child interactions. And I talk much more about that on another webinar that I have done in the past. And what I will do is I'll send a link through when we've edited this webinar, and I'll send a link to that as well, so you can have a look at it. So have a think about, in order to overcome the barriers to comfort and posture and productivity in the workplace, is think about what are you going to keep doing that is working for you. So maybe you already do something that works for you that you need to keep doing. What do you need to develop further? So it may well be your self-awareness. As I said, you know, because it's been kind of on the forefront of my mind, having worked with Alison over the last week, putting this together, is that every now and again, well, actually quite regularly, I'm sitting up, I'm kind of thinking, oh, I need to reposition myself. So it might be about developing your patience. If you've got that hurry up driver, you know, what do you need to let go of? And that maybe it is that fear of failure. If you've got that perfect driver. Maybe it's the fear of upsetting people if you've got the please people driver. So think about what is it you want to change in order to be comfortable and productive in the workplace. And everything that I do talk a lot with my clients about the neuroscience. And, you know, when we are looking at ourselves physically, but both in terms of posture, so we have less pain or no pain whatsoever, and that we're having regular breaks, etc., is that actually our brain has more energy to be able to think, be productive, think creatively, and you will therefore be more productive. So just to remind you is that Alison has got a newsletter, so go to the safetyelf.co.uk website and sign up for that. Also, if you haven't already registered with my website, inspiretransformation.co.uk, you can receive Melanie's Monday motivational messages. Also, I have a monthly coaching newsletter, and also then I keep you up to date with my series of free webinars. I also offer a free coaching audit for individuals and for individuals, managers and businesses. I have Being and Doing, which is an 8-week online course, and the next one is starting in January. So any final questions before we go, or Alison, anything you want to kind of chip in, having listened to me? Anything you want to add, Alison?
No, just a whole load of ticks. I was cheering away here as through your slides, Melanie.
Okay, great, good. But we've got one person saying, I have a colleague who expects me to complete tasks he's requested almost immediately and constantly emails me, including my boss, about these things I haven't finished. That would make him a hurry up person, although he doesn't complete jobs I need him to do. Any suggestions of how to deal with him, as my current tactic is to try and ignore him? So that was Carol, I think. I've lost my cursor. So Carol, my first question would be the level of rapport that you have with that individual, because that's going to affect how you're going to have that kind of conversation, because you do need to kind of have a conversation with this individual. So I would go first of all with what's your level of rapport, and then thinking about how do you have an adult to adult conversation about it. I think also step into that person's shoes, because it sounds to me that this person is kind of spinning out of control, in that their stress levels are going up. I'm often talking about people's emotional temperature. It sounds to me that their emotional temperature is quite high, is that maybe they're quite overwhelmed and they're very anxious. So they keep on wanting, you know, following up, hurrying up, but are also not getting on with the things that they need to do. So I just wonder whether you can go with maybe just having an open conversation about how are they? So then kind of check in, and then maybe have a way in to be able to have a conversation about what's going on here. So if you've got any further questions, Carol, feel free to come back to me in the chat box. In the meantime, Catherine's got a question about how do you deal with the tyranny of perfectionism on a practical level? So I've written a book called Mastering Your Inner Critic, Releasing Your Inner Wisdom. So there are lots of different exercises that you can use. And what I will do is I will send one of those in with the information. So it's an exercise about listening to the different parts of yourself, rather than just because it's your inner critic. It's a mixture of your inner critic going, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and unrealistic expectations. And then your inner fearful child going, oh, but what if this, what if that, what if I fail, what if this goes wrong, what if that? And so gradually working on what's going on up here is you can start to rewire your brain and change that tyranny of perfectionism. And I'm living proof about that. And you kind of go for approximate perfection, which is usually better than most people's norm.